Hey everybody, it's Nick here from another BookTube channel. Today is February 9th, and I am going to an event in New York City at the Strand bookstore. There's a conversation with Paul Tremblay and Stephen Graham Jones, and I'm really excited about it. I've met Paul Tremblay before, but I've never met Stephen Graham Jones. I've only recently gotten into his books, and this is, I guess, a promotional thing for his new book, Don't Fear the Reaper. I'm really excited about it. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully I get to learn some stuff from them. I'm also going to be obviously shopping at the Strand, as well as another bookshop in Manhattan. So let's see how this goes. If you're going to be going to an event with some horror authors, you got to wear a fit that matches. So obviously we're going with the Shirley Jackson t-shirt. This is my We Have Always Lived in the Castle shirt. Obviously, I'm hoping that Paul Tremblay and Stephen Graham Jones see it and they're like, wow, that's a pretty cool shirt. You must be a pretty cool guy. Do you want to be our best friend or something? And I'll be like, yeah, Paul Tremblay and Stephen Graham Jones. Of course I want to be your best friend. That sounds awesome. I'm about to head out right now, and it's just occurring to me that in order to get to this event, I do have to leave my house, which is bullshit. Okay, so we're on the Staten Island train to the Staten Island ferry. I live right next door to the train, so it's really convenient. I don't like going into the city that much. I'm actually not a huge fan of New York City, of Manhattan, but when I do have to go in there, the train is really convenient. Here we are getting onto the boat. The boat we got today was the John Markey. I was hoping to get the Guy Molinari. If you're a reader of The Expanse, that name might sound familiar. One of the ships from that series was named the Guy Molinari. The writers took the name from the Staten Island Ferry, from one of them. I do like this boat, though, because it does have one of my favorite seats on it. You go up to the second level. You can sit outside when the weather is a little bit nicer. It was a bit chilly today, so I did not. But yeah, right here, this corner where no one can get to you. And this boat, what they used to do back in the olden days was they actually had recordings that played over the loudspeaker of famous books. They don't do that anymore, though. And here I am trying to get a little cinematic for you. See, look at that. Statue of Liberty, a little bit of the sunset. Very nice. After about an hour and a half, I'm finally at my destination, the Best Buy. Just kidding. The Alabaster Bookshop on 4th Avenue. I really like this little used bookshop. Really cool selection of rare and vintage books, as well as just some good, hard-to-find paperbacks. You can see here I was primarily at the science fiction and fantasy and horror section. They had a lot of Stephen King, a lot of fantasy. This was pretty cool. This Arthur C. Clarke hardcover. I've never even heard of those stories, but good selection of pulps as well. I went through quite a few of the Edgar Rice Burroughs here. This was the coolest thing I saw, though. Ray Bradbury's Halloween Tree, signed by Ray Bradbury with an illustration by him. He actually drew a Halloween tree on the inside. Almost brought that home with me, but it was $300. And here we are at the Strand bookstore where the signing is occurring. I'm actually not a huge fan of the Strand. I think it's a little overstimulating. It can get a little overwhelming, and I think it's actually hard to find pretty much anything you want. And it's a bit much. The event itself was on the rare book floor, which is a very soft and inviting place, and they did it up real nice here. Fortunately, I was able to film in the event itself, and I got a perfect seat. I was literally front row center, but I didn't want to be the annoying person in the front just holding my camera up and kind of getting in people's way. So I held the phone just basically in my lap, and I aimed it up at them. So apologies if the angle is a little bit weird. You're kind of looking up at them a little bit, and if it kind of moves or goes out of focus, that's just me trying to get comfortable. Also, the audio wasn't the best in general at the event itself. So I've really ramped up the actual audio level here. Hopefully it isn't terrible, but I also subtitled all of the important stuff, so you could just read along to what they're saying. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into it.
I got lost coming back here, of course, because I get lost everywhere. And I kept asking people, how do I get to the Strand? And they would just look at me and turn away. Dark Bill South, he's a 6.5 foot tall dude who really likes to kill people in inventive ways, I guess. And the name, do y'all know that song by Jerry Reed, Amos Moses? There's a part in Amos Moses where Jerry Reed says, Doc Millsap raised up a son that could eat up his weight in groceries. And my whole life I've misheard that as Dark Mill South, and so I was trying to look at the lyrics. And it's Doc Millsap, and that just broke my brain, but it also gave me a name that nobody else has used. You know? Like when you're doing a slasher on the screen, the hard part is coming up with the iconic mask, you know? But on the page, it's not about the mask so much, but I can get away with the name, I feel like, you know? Like the only way I know to get true things on the page is to either amplify or slightly transform feelings that I've had. The very first novel I wrote, back when I was 26, I had no idea how to write a novel. You don't know how to write a novel until you've written a novel. And even if you've written the novel, you forget it immediately and start over. But I had a deadline, a really fast deadline. And like what a novel is you write for 10 or 12 pages, you hit a wall. Every time I hit that 10 or 12 page wall, instead of wishing I knew what came next, I just pulled a piece of my life out and put it on the page and changed the names.
Well, the premise came from I just drew like a cabinet and notebook. I was actually flying back from LA. I went to I might have been there with you, the LA Times Festival of Books. And my editor just rejected a novel idea that I'd sent to her. I drew a cabinet in my notebook. Just not even paying attention on the plane. I was like, oh, and it made me think of like home invasion subgenre. And really from there it was almost like a logic experiment. It was like, one, home invasions are really icky to me, so I don't like them. I don't like them because they really bother me. So it's like, oh, how would I write one that I would want to sit through? We've all seen home invasions where the invaders show up and do horrible things to the family. We've all seen home invasions where the family turn the tables and kill the invaders. It's like, what if the invaders showed up and started killing each other? That's really weird. Why would that happen?
There was a while in Don't Fear the Reaper, I was probably 2/3 of the way through it before I was like, oh yeah, that's probably the killer. You know, and you think in a slasher you're going to know who's the killer, but I just write the first line and then I figured out from there. I've tried planning before, and when I plan or outline, then I get bored and I don't write the book, you know, because I've already figured it out. I know what's going to happen, and I like to read books. And I guess I like to read my own books as they happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's two stories that, like, I would never do a sequel to A Head Full of Ghosts, but for anyone who's read the book, Marjorie and Mary, the two sisters, part of the relationship is they tell each other stories. So I thought it'd be fun, like, if I were ever to go back, just to do more, hey, these are the stories that the two sisters tell each other, so.
Last time, about 2 times ago at the horror show, Telluride Horror Show, Paul and I are walking home kind of unsteadily at 2 in the morning in this dark place downtown, and we walked up on a black bear, which was exciting.
I thought it was a brown bear. It's the biggest damn thing I ever saw. Like, for all you New Yorkers, like, I had the total George Costanza moment where there were 6 of us walking in the snow. I'm not shitting you. Like, the back row, I was closer to the back row, this giant bear across the street from us. I went from leading the group to leading another group.
But it was like for me and Paul, that if it was that close, that's far.
Terrifying.
It was really close.
Yeah.
It was exciting.
But then they were like, you know, chasing after it with the phone, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, if I'm not scaring myself when I'm writing, then I write something different. Really. Like, I think I don't write horror because like I understand the mechanism of a scare or any of that. I do it because I'm scared of everything. I know that Stephen King, like people ask him, how do you sleep being a horror writer? And he says, I sleep great, I get my nightmares away. I thought that was true, but I started writing my nightmares down on the page, and that just gives them higher resolution.
I mean, I scare myself all the time, not like writing, just, you know, I'm a scaredy cat. You know, I actually said in like an interview recently, it's like, you know, when the Hulk said, you know, I'm always angry, you know, I'm always scared.
Hi guys. One of my favorite things to do when reading a book is trying to figure out the potential influences on that author, on that book. Since both of you are right here, maybe you could help me cut to the chase on that. What books or authors would you recommend to better get to know Paul Tremblay and Stephen Graham Jones?
I'm just gonna say Paul.
You know, Stephen King turned me into read. I was a math major in college,
Mm-hmm.
and then while I was in graduate school, fell in love with reading because of I randomly read Joyce Carol Oates' Where Are You Going, Where Are You Been? And I was like, oh, I didn't know people wrote things like this. And Stephen King's The Stand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so as a child of the 80s, I watched all the movies. Movies was all my intro. So, you know, and then from King, I went to like, you know, Clive Barker and Shirley Jackson, et cetera. But like all the people who write now, very much Stephen included, are influences.
To know me better through books, the first horror novel I ever read was Whitley Strieber's Wolfen, and that book is still part of like my DNA kernel. I feel like, especially those parts where the grandfather, the leader of the pack, is speaking in like wolf voice. I reread that novel recently, and it still hits me just as hard. So that's like one. The second one, I'll just do two. No, I'll do three. The second one is I would call it a text, but it's Terminator 2. Like the first few novels I ever sketched out back in the 90s, I would be like cooking, and I'd look back at it and I'd be like, you did Terminator 2 again.
Not Terminator 1?
No, two. The third one would be Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a big part of me. I mean, I wish I could do Spider-Man stuff. That's my dream. Well, thank y'all. This has been nothing but fun.
Thank you.
It was a really fun night. Paul Tremblay and Stephen Graham Jones were really funny, and it was obviously an unscripted type of event. I think the first thing they said when they sat down was they really don't have any idea what they're doing, so they just started talking. And they were really interesting people. I had met Paul Tremblay before once at New York Comic Con in 2016, I believe. It was after Disappearance of Devil's Rock came out, but before Cabin at the End of the World. And he was doing a signing there, and I was first in line for it. And he came out early, and so before the event started, it was just me and him, and we kind of chatted for like 10 minutes. And it was really cool, and I mentioned that when I met him again here, because there was a signing after the actual conversation. And whether he remembered me or not, he was gracious enough to pretend. He said, "Oh, you're the Nick. Yeah, you used to reach out to me on Twitter a lot." And I did. So maybe he actually did remember me. But it was really great being able to see him again. Also, Stephen Graham Jones, also a really nice guy. I would honestly love to be able to just sit with him and talk about horror movies all day, because if it's not obvious from his books like My Heart is a Chainsaw, he really knows his horror movie stuff. And he's obviously got a deep well of knowledge there. And that would be a really fun conversation to have. But it was really cool meeting them. I did pick up some goodies from the trip. I'm going to do a separate video of my book haul. So keep an eye out for that. Look out for that. Thank you guys for watching this. I hope you found it interesting. Thanks for spending some time with me today. But now it's time to get back to reading.